2 races remain in Season 7. The championship race is down to its 2 best drivers, and the stakes are higher than ever before. Welcome back to the Iowa Speedway for the penultimate race of the IORA Cup Series, not only this season, but in its existence. Times have changed, and we've got announcements to make throughout the broadcast. The most important thing to focus on is the racing at hand today. Welcome back to the International Online Racing Association as we go for it once again. This is race number 13 on the calendar. And of course, as we mentioned, welcome to the cornfields of Newton, Iowa, as we are set to go green from the Iowa Speedway amid one of our tightest ever championship battles. Aiden Walker was able to get the better of Daniel Mosteller and now holds a 15-point championship advantage. River Page with the pole position tonight. I'll be your host, broadcasting, commentating, and producing. I'm David Kreutz. Welcome back to FTN. Now, the qualifying lineup has already been set, and you'll see drivers taking their rounds. River Page has the inside of row number 1 with the pole position, a quick time at 23.481. Daniel Mosteller goes second, and championship leader Aiden Walker is third, with Chase Schaefer, Frank Horley, Sean Rowe, and Aladam Contreras all in the top 7. The top 10 is rounded out by Carlos Truther, Aiden Smith, and James Thurston, with Jaden Hall, Vincent Guecci, Aaron Schugel, Jason Gallagher, Douglas Newbigging making up the top 15. Von Drugman goes 16th, Will Shack 17th, 18th for Henry Kalhoff. 20th is Braxton Whitaker. He is just behind Andres Varas in the 84 today. 20 drivers took a time, 25 have registered, including Lars Kinnowith in 21st, Devins Baker in 22nd, Wayne Kennedy 23rd, Corbin Collins 24th, and Tyler Shaw 25th and last. River Page, fresh off return to victory lane, now has the wind in his sails to compete for third in the championship standings. He currently finds himself only 1 point behind his Power Smash Infinity Speed Motorsport teammate James Thurston for that honor. So 2 battles will be happening up in front today. Daniel Mosteller is in a winner-go-home position for the championship. River Page is looking to elevate his game and lead his team in the title race. Welcome to the new and improved Iowa Speedway. We're underway for 150 laps from the cornfields. Side by side for the opening lap, and currently it's all Daniel Mosteller on the high side, and on that bottom it's all out for River Page. River's gonna have to concede for the time being, as it looks like Demos now has the edge. Mosteller takes it for P1, and just like that, it's going to be Demos, Page, Walker, 1, 2, 3, Aiden crossing the line just ahead now of the 99 of Schaefer. Chase finding himself 4th place, and it's going to be a pretty big spread already for everyone in the field. The Iowa Speedway looking very different today than how we've seen it in previous races. We've been to this track before, but the venue has been updated on iRacing for another big 2025 graphics rehash. And also the track surface slicked down on the bottom, and you can see the preference is that darker pavement here where every driver is going throughout the corners. And it looks like that's going to be the norm for the night. Iowa usually giving way to a lot of good multi-groove racing, but the preference so far has been solely down to the bottom, a little bit different from last time around, and such is the nature of this different package. Five laps in out of 150. 3 wide now, James Thurston, Carlos Truther, and Chase Schaefer all amongst each other, and the Hornets' nest is as tight as it gets. 2 by 2, Sean Rowe and Frank Horley looking to get ahead. Horley having a great run last week. He wasn't able to finish the job, however, ended up retiring prematurely, and as it stands, it looks like he's waiting for another opportunity to bring it back up front. Now we'll see whether or not he stays in it tonight, and if he does, he's most likely going to have a top 5 finish. Well, that's if he can only hang on to his qualifying placement. Currently, he finds himself P3, the highest he's run all day, and it's a shuffle further behind. Demos leads, Walker is down to 10th, and the disparity now between the 87 and the 93, well, it's evident. I figure that's going to be quite the problem for Walker tonight, but he comes in with the edge. Aiden can, technically speaking, afford a worse race than Daniel Mosteller, only by virtue of his 15-point championship advantage. But if he has 2 bad races, then he's most likely going to forfeit the title to Mosteller, and Mosteller would be able to accrue his 4th and final championship in this series, as your 3-time defending champ is the man, of course, up in front. Now, that's one thing we'd like to touch upon as this race and broadcast gets underway. This is the second to last ever race for the IORA Cup Series in its current form. League administration, headed by Mason Moriarty, our off-track admin, have made the decision to put to a indefinite end full-time competition in the IORA Cup Series. Season 7 will be the last full-time season. Over the summer, there will be an 8-race farewell tour hosted, which will not count toward the Cup Series stat record. And at the end of the summer, the league will, at least for the time being, come to its indefinite end. Now, that means for these drivers, the stakes are a lot higher to perform at a higher level if they want to achieve anything more in what remains of this league. For Aiden Walker, it would be cathartic as ever for him to win the championship, something that he has yet to do, and of course now he's looking to be the final title winner in league history. He's the only driver mathematically eligible now to become a first-time champion. Thurston, Page, Walker, and Daniel Mosteller. Those are the 4 drivers still with a mathematical opportunity. However, at this rate, it comes down to the 93 and the 87. Caution's out for the first time tonight, and it's a big one. You got drivers spinning, including Vincent Guecci. Caution's out. Check it out. Guecci to the inside on the rookie of Aiden Smith. And this is the lap leading up to it. Three wide there. Carlos Truther just ahead. Contact between Truther and Guecci. Aiden Smith ends up making more contact with the both of them, and so it's contact for all. Will Shack gets away, but Aiden Smith gets shot up and down the circuit. One more time from the perspective of Smith. Take a look inside the cockpit. For Smith, he found himself behind the original moment of contact. 1, 2, 3, the chain reaction, and then Smith gets lifted up the circuit. Vincent Guecci given an end-of-line penalty as a result of that contact and the caution, and the field heads to pit road for the first time tonight, headed by Daniel Mosteller in the 87. It's going to be 13 laps in out of 150, our first pit stop cycle of the day. Drivers have 4 extra tire sets at their disposal and a fuel cap of 80%. Most important incentive for this pit stop cycle is getting in and making sure, of course, that those tires are taken care of for the long run and that fuel is maxed out. We're looking at full fuel and 4 tires as the recipe for most. Aladam Contreras is going to decide to do something different and get out quicker than anyone else, but Daniel Mosteller on the conventional strategy breaks out with River Page immediately following, Sean Rowe, James Thurston, Frank Horley, and Chase Schaefer, all of which comprising of the remaining portion of the top 10. Henry Kaloff, Douglas Newbigging, and Devins Baker, the only holdouts who have not yet gone to pit road. Two laps to go now. Kaloff is going to remain out on the circuit, and he's going to be one of the only 3, as we mentioned, to do so. So an interesting call for Kaloff now, a 60-plus time starter, still looking for that first career win. Henry tonight is looking forward even more than ever. He's got confidence in this venue. He's been here multiple times with top 10 finishes in Saturday Night Thunder, as well as experience at tracks like Richmond in IORA. It looks like already he's going to be going for the alternate call, and I think his hope is that there's going to be a caution somewhere within the next 30 laps. Hudson Sangster in the chat room, thank you for stopping by. Devins Baker as well. And it looks like right now KDR fan support is ramping up. Kaloff is leading the team today. He's got a few other teammates who are typically with them, and some of which are with them on track now, including Aaron Schugel, as you see him, currently running in 19th as they cross the line. Henry Kaloff is one of the guys who really wants it just because he knows that this is the second to last opportunity he'll be given. The Season 4 FORL Cup Series champion now takes it up high, and Douglas Newbicking goes to the bottom. Side by side for our first restart of the night. Henry Kaloff and Aladam Contreras are the top side guys, and they'll have Douglas Newbicking leading Devins Baker. Contreras looks to be on 2 tires. Everyone else behind him is on a fresh set of 4. Maybe going to be leaning on that new track surface to help out as Henry Kaloff gets the restart and the advantage. It's going to be a car length for the 63, and it looks like already drivers backing it down to the opening corner. Contreras getting by all but one of the old tire brigade. The inside now. Looks like Kaloff's going to be able to defend for this first lap. Watch this. The advantage of 2 tires is clear, but you also have to watch out for the drivers further behind. Sean Rowe now going at it with Douglas Newbicking, and Daniel Mosteller peeling into the battle with Contreras and Kaloff. Henry, as quickly as he was knocked off second place, might just lose it and fall to third. Demos leaving it to be a rather contentious battle already. He's got that inner groove with younger tire, and that's all he'll need. Daniel Mosteller needs this night to be all but perfect with Walker in 10th and Demos in 2nd. The only thing better for him would be to lead more laps, but Contreras shuts him down again. The door is slammed up top. Demos no choice but to switch back and go to the bottom. The call on the field for the 87 is aim for clearance. Contreras has the back straightaway, but not the momentum to work with it. Demos takes the race lead. Caution's out, second time tonight. Jaden Hall in the number 74 with trouble. And the caution flies again. You'll see here Devins Baker with smoke billowing out of the engine. Here's a look back. Second caution of the day at lap number 20. And it looks like early on, Iowa Speedway giving some perhaps unexpected troubles. Baker loose on his own, slides down, contact. And it just looks like getting squirrely off exit, not able to put it together. One more time, watching a board from the 14's perspective here. Devins coming up the circuit, and it looks like a minor bump caught him at the end of the corner. And he's retired the 14 car. That's the end of the day. Baker backs it down, and the field is at a standstill. Drivers coming now through turns 1 and 2. Daniel Mosteller reclaims the lead as quickly as he lost it. Henry Kaloff has opted to head out of the top 10 here, or at least down to pit road. And you'll see his teammate and Aaron Schugel is as well. Number 74 of Jaden Hall to pit road, as is Andres Varas. So the holdouts having to switch up their decisions here as Kaloff gets on the way. 22 laps out of 150. Demos is to the points. Side by side once again with 2 laps to green. Daniel Mosteller has to look behind again, and now the competition may be a little bit stiffer by virtue of everyone being on the same tire. Frank Horley up to that second row here. A driver to watch out for. You'll see him in 5th place. Only second row for the time being as he drives slightly ahead of River Page. But either way, all those heavy hitters from the early run have gotten themselves back together. Aladam Contreras falling to the back of the field again. Of course, that's by virtue of tire strategy. He has to head down. Looks like the early 2-tire call isn't really going to help him. And so he makes his way through. As everyone gets back in line, Daniel Mosteller opts for the high groove, and he'll take Sean Rowe. Down to the bottom, River Page and Chase Schaefer. "22 drivers taking the race start today, 21 of which still on the circuit. Devins Baker, the only retiree, 2 laps down in 22nd. Single file at the back of the field, Jaden Hall and Wayne Kennedy. Kennedy qualified 23rd tonight, meaning he was one of the drivers not to take a qualifying time, and he's looking for the route up the circuit. Of all the drivers who did not take a qualifying time, Kennedy is the only of which that is still going. And that's only at lap 25. Green flag back on the way. Daniel Mosteller up high with the jolt start, and nobody else can come close. Chase Schaefer side by side with Sean Rowe, 3 wide right behind Aiden Walker, but there's no match for the number 87 car. Single file up in front, and everyone diving down to the bottom again. It looks like even on the outside, and shall we say the later portion of the race, even looks like the outside won't come to use. Track conditions aren't expected to change all too much today. We were anticipating a day to night race. However, due to some changes with this track, as we mentioned, lighting system is not fully up to date as Sean Rowe slams the outside wall. Schaefer fighting him real contentious there, and he ended up dropping multiple spots. Rowe's now battling directly against Aiden Walker to be the final man in the top 5, and Walker hasn't let up easy. Aiden to the inside, Walker still using the second groove. Carlos Truther getting as high as anyone has, but again, it's that dark pavement that has been the end goal. So, that might be one of the more compromising factors of these new rubber circuits, new pavement, shall we say. Everyone's now understanding that there's one optimal groove. The track really isn't worn in to the same degree, and it's going to become even more challenging to pass than it was prior. Iowa Speedway has never been an easy track to pass through. However, at the same time, you've always seen the opportunity to go up high when stakes are high and use the top side well. The front straightaway is curved, much like the Richmond Raceway, which means that if you're able to pull speed together up top, you can carry it for the rest of the lap, and it becomes a little bit of a cycle. That's why drivers at times have made use of the higher portion of the circuit, but today, not so much. Nobody daring to step out of the darker, lower pavement where the optimal apex appears to be. As we've stepped in to lap number 30, or at least now we're heading that way with Daniel Mosteller ahead of River Page. Take a look behind the 87 now, and you'll see it's pretty smooth sailing to this point. River, a half second behind Demos, has not yet been able to keep pace. Interesting because River got qualifying, of course, down pat, was able to win the pole position by 3/100ths of a second, which is, while a very short margin, a clear margin over Mosteller. But in race pace so far, there really hasn't been that much of a connection between the 24-87. Chase Schaefer actually might be a little bit quicker now, and Chase is eyeing up River Page for an opportunity to pass. In the championship standings, Chase Schaefer is a driver who is right at the midway point of all of our playoff contenders. With 1,106 points, Chase Schaefer finds himself 6th in the standings, 10 back on Lars Kinnewith, and 17 back on 3rd place James Thurston. The theoretical ceiling for Chase Schaefer's season would be 3rd. However, it looks more likely that Chase Schaefer is going to be battling for up to 4th in the championship standings, as River Page is having another banner run for the 24 team. And it looks like he might actually be looking for a win as well. Don't count out Page. Mathematically speaking, he is still just within the cusp of the championship race. He would need effectively perfection, but 42 points back, 2 victories could cover a lot of that distance and make it another fight between 3 drivers rather than just 2. But if Daniel Mosteller stays ahead of Page today, it's all but wraps when we head toward our final race in Las Vegas. Ben Drugman to the inside of Sean Rowe now. For the 5th position, Sean, with the 2nd groove, gets out better. Now again, nobody going to the top side, but that's the benefit of the upper portion of the dark groove. Getting a little bit more speed through the corners, making the back stretch and especially the front stretch a potent opportunity for overtaking. And a textbook play by Rowe on the top side, bringing James Thurston with him. Rewind, not quite, but it will be double file again with a little bit more pressure now from Henry Kaloff. We'll see what Henry decides to do here. It looks like he gets locked up high. Drugman down low, and it's going to be a train on the higher side getting away from the 2. And oftentimes, it appears that the inside line is able to freight train a driver out of the short track, and when everyone's so focused on being on the bottom today, you would have thought it would be the same case. But surprisingly enough, Drugman, compromising his lane on the bottom exclusively, couldn't get a run out. And just like that, he'll fade behind and drop from as high as 5th, now again to 8th. Drugman qualified 16th today, so has still gained a total of 8 positions, 38 laps in out of 150. Now the Ford Mustang finds itself amid the 2nd pack and the 3rd, which includes the 85 of Jason Gallagher, Braxton Whitaker, and Aiden Smith. Aaron Schugel on the FTN number 91 back on the track, and it looks like Aiden Walker might fall out of the single digits if Schugel has anything more for him. Take a look aboard now, the 91 car, as Aiden Walker fights for single-digit competition. Schugel, 10th place, qualified 13th. He has gained 3 on the day. The 93 of Walker has dropped 6. Walker qualified well and got it up, as of course, as we mentioned, the 2nd row. And it's tight qualifying position. 100th after 100th. It makes a lot of difference. But it looks like so far, maybe in the same token as River Page and Daniel Mosteller have been back and forth, and Page has been the man losing that race battle. Aiden Walker has very much dropped out of the picture. He's still in the top 10, yes, but when your championship rival is leading, much like when Aiden Walker is ahead of Mosteller, or what we've seen beforehand when Walker is out there trying to win a race, the further behind you are your main title rival, the worse it is. Take a look up top. River Page still trying to find room, and Chase Schaefer stays 3rd. Side by side now, it's going to be James Thurston and Sean Rowe. among one another. Sean is at the upper portion of that bottom tarmac, and it looks like that's going to be the trend of the day. A little bit of a rush in the wall, though, and it's going to slow Sean down, losing one and now a second position. A 1-2 combo brings Henry Kaloff up to 7th. Van Drugman in the mix again, and if there's an issue now for the number 63 call, or for the 29 who made contact with the wall, maybe a chance again to gain position. Drugman is in 8th place, as we mentioned, and it looks like right now might be able to go as high as 6th. Depends on what Kaloff does here. Henry Kaloff now latched onto the back of the Thurston car, and James not having a clear way out. Top 3 drivers have broken away from just about everyone else on the circuit. Talking about our strategy calls, we've already had most drivers come into pit road within the opening 20 laps, which leaves us with about 130 laps remaining. So, with that said, I believe we can split the race into a 2-stop strategy, just assuming that we go green the rest of the way. And here's how that would work out. Drivers going in within the first 20 laps, and if they paid attention during the caution cycles, they would have saved as much fuel as possible. Then from there, you would most likely see the next pit stop cycle at about lap number 70. Anywhere from 70 to 80, realistically speaking, we'll see drivers making their way in. And if they really are good on their numbers, 80 to 90 might be the ideal route to go for the rest of the race here. Jaden Hall retiring. He's the second of the day. 11th place qualifier will finish 21st. Now, drivers going at about lap 90, they'll have a 60-lap run to finish the job. Taking a look at our estimated numbers right now, Daniel Mosteller, his last pit lap was 14. If he goes until lap number 74, that's a 60-lap run. If he goes till lap 90, that would be, give or take, about 86 laps. So, you got to strike that balance in the middle and figure out when exactly you'd like to go through. Realistically speaking, looking at those numbers, it would be best to go in through the 80s, which would mean anywhere from lap 80 to 90, and most likely you're going to hit it smack in the middle at about lap number 85 if you're one of these drivers. That would be the target if you want to go for one pit stop for the rest of the race. We might see a little bit of a safer strategy put into play as well, in which drivers go to pit road as up to 20 laps earlier in the 60s. Frank Horley getting up there with James Thurston, but Thurston surges out for 4th. Henry Kaloff now going to find himself on the bottom end of the Frank Horley sandwich. So the next 35 laps going to be very telling as to how we play the strategy game. The more time we have under green, the more time we'll have to fully figure it out. Aiden Walker further ahead of this Vincent Guecci car, the 88 from 12th to 12th on the day. One of the very few who has maintained his qualifying position. As a matter of fact, it looks like currently, of all drivers on the racetrack, Guecci is the only driver that has neither gained nor lost a position in this opening stint. Interesting. Now, that could mean a little bit more good for him than anything else because he hasn't fallen behind, or it could be bad for him because he hasn't gained. And currently he also has to be the only driver who's really isolated. He's got several seconds ahead of him and about a second behind him to Jason Gallagher as Sean Rowe goes side by side with Aaron Schugel. Aiden Walker gets to 8th. Now can Schugel put down the pressure on Walker? It looks like not quite, but that's going to back Sean Rowe off. And Walker gets away advantageous in this battle. I think the end goal today for Walker is going to be a top 5 finish. That would neutralize any losses in points as compared to a Daniel Mosteller win here. So I think if there's any recovery for the 93 car, top 5 is the way to go. But we'll see if he can cut that distance naturally or if he'll need another caution or a few. .54 laps in out of 150. Frank Horley, 5th place. James Thurston, 10th up to 4th. That's a gain of 6 so far on the night. Got a few bigger movers as Jacob Wilkerson, looking in from the spotter stand, retires. Henry Kaloff, 18th up to 6th, is gaining 12 on the day, more than anyone else so far. Gaining 11 is Van Drugman, 16th to 7th. And your two hard chargers are battling each other actively for track position. 13th to 9th, Aaron Schugel. And then from there, you're going to have 20th to 14th, Braxton Whitaker. Now 20th to 16th, in fact, as he's going to find multiple drivers contending against him. Douglas Newbigging, you got the number 85 of Jason Gallagher, Aladam Contreras, and Aiden Smith, all getting by. A 4-car battle in the back half of the field. At the line, Contreras just ahead of Gallagher. That's for 13th place. Douglas Newbigging right there as well. John Rowe diving deep now on Carlos Truther. Trying to run him up the track, but it's not going to work. Sean compromising his exit big time. Kaloff and Drugman for 6th. If you got a favorite driver and you'd like to shout them out, let us know live on FTN. 58 laps in out of 150. The action has only just begun for our penultimate race of the season. And so far, the former champ and defending champ, Daniel Mostellers, had it made up in front. If you got a driver you'd like to see win, though, let us know in the FTN chat room below. Tuning in and checking us out, always free. And if you enjoy our coverage, make sure to like the stream and subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe, you'll have unlimited chat room access to all of our broadcasts here on FTN. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Coming in for lap number 60 now, Daniel Mosteller sees 91 laps to go as River Page, for the first time, has a serious shot of taking the lead. Demos is working that outside well, because as close as it was, he'll pull another 1/10 of a second back. Is Page taking it a little bit too hot and heavy on the inside, or is Daniel Mosteller playing his cards right by being the more conservative force in this battle? It could go either way, and honestly, it looks like it's going to go back to 4th, and back and forth, shall we say, for the next coming laps. 61 out of 150. I wouldn't expect, as we see it right now, to be much of a change in the top 3. The only potential difference, I think it would be, of course, when we go down a pit road. But even then, very challenging to break out unless you have clean air to begin with. As it stands, River Page in the 24 car, he's a driver who knows how to break out and get away. That's exactly what he did last week. And while it was a little bit of a shock, when River got clean air, he was gone. There was not a driver in the field who was able to catch back up to him. And so, if River gets even close to leading the tire strategy on the way in, he might just be able to ghost the field without them even realizing it. 63 laps in at 150. Watch further behind, the battles have become a little bit more calm, shall we say. The battles have become less of direct competition, and instead it's more about stalemating it out until the pit cycle. Single file has become more dominant than ever before, and most drivers are running, for all intents and purposes, the same laps with very little differentiation in the groove. Everyone dropping to the bottom through those corners, getting the apex just right, and running at their own pace. There is no battle now that is actively happening side by side. This is the closest, Kaloff and Drugman. Henry having a few 1/10 of a second over the 2 car, and it has only been that handful of hundredths that have kept him ahead. Few 1/10 of a second, just a few more hundredths at that. Even Walker watching as he could get as high as 6th if he's able to make it through both the 2 and the 63. Take another look on board. Aiden Walker looking still as Von Drugman stays ahead. And if the 2-car falls, it's very likely the 63 of Kaloff does. Frank Horley maintains 5th. He's held a very calm wheel. Really no doubt about it that this Frank Horley team has more potential than we give it credit for, and unfortunately we don't have the time to give it credit. Even if he makes next week's race, he would only have 3 starts under his belt this season and 3 starts under his belt in his career. The IORA Cup Series unfortunately coming to that close before he really gets a shot to put it all together and show the field what he's made of. It's been a solid race so far. Last week looked to have promise, but then from there, just didn't turn out. He disconnected early. "69 laps in out of 150, 3/10 Demos and River Page. Page had that one opportunity slicing to the inside, and it looked like that was the best shot he got. "70 laps in, just about halfway. Aiden Walker now looking to the bottom of Von Drugman. This time they're going to be directly door to door. Coming up the track, Drugman immediately shoots high. Luckily gets out of the way of everyone, but a huge hit for the 2 team. And as soon as they make contact, rapid fire up the track. Take a look at this. They were toe-to-toe. Walker got under him, and it looks like maybe bobbling up the paint line, and as soon as the contact was made, uncontrollable shot high. Drugman now on pit road, and it looks like that's going to be the end of his race, and Aiden Walker takes it to 7th. Von Drugman retiring the car immediately thereafter. And Walker keeps the spot. Henry Kaloff a little bit pressure off his back. Frank Horley 5th, James Thurston 10th up to 4th, trying to keep up with his teammate, but River Page has now been outclassing him in these final few races. Power Smash Infinity Speed Motorsport up and in front. Currently speaking, it looks like these 2 drivers, Page and Thurston, are having their own battle in the championship run. Now, the question becomes, which of them is going to get away better? Highly likely that Page now has the momentum to pull it through, but Las Vegas is a track they're both strong at. River, however, winning last week, cutting that deficit immensely, 2nd to 4th, might not be enough to really set him apart, but now it really just becomes that internal competition for their final time around. Thurston and Page are both IORA Cup Series champions, and now, for the very first time, of course, they get to joust it out for 3rd in the title directly against each other. 75 out of 150 coming to the second half. And through the second half, only 2 cautions, both of which in the first 20. As the leaders have maintained out in front, the magic number looks very achievable now. The mid-80s will most likely be that midpoint, and drivers can judge whenever they'd like to go down a pit road with the freedom of strategy. Doug Newbigin, 15th up to 11th here. Now, Aladam Contreras coming down low, and it looks like the 92 with a much better run through the corner. Contreras, as nice as they come, enters and exits smoothly. That's for 11th place. Douglas Newbigin goes P12. Side by side between Vincent Guecci and Aiden Smith here. Aiden looking for 13th place. Aiden Smith having it off the outside of the corner. It'll be his just like that. Well, strategy today has been largely as calm as it comes. The battles that have come sparingly anyhow have been exciting. And here's another one that will be of note. For 6th place, Aiden Walker and Henry Kaloff. Kaloff was able to defend off the corner that time by, but Aiden Walker as close as he's been. Aiden wouldn't be surprised if he tries a little bit harder now to take that spot before he gets to the finish of this first stint. Aiden within 2/10. Now with Daniel Mosteller leading most of the laps on the day, if he only continues for 20 more laps ahead, he'll have that mathematically locked up. Aiden Walker is going to have himself a hole to climb out of. The only solace for the 63 of Kaloff, of course in this case, is he's leading his team, but for Walker, the only thing he can relish in is that Daniel Mosteller did not win the pole position. Just didn't work out for him, and as such, that's an extra bonus point taken from Mosteller and given instead to Page. "82 laps in out of 150. River Page still eyeing down Daniel Mosteller. No driver giving that signal that they're coming down and in. Douglas Newbigging being the lone exception. Newbigging now going to find himself 1 lap down after his pit stop. Jason Gallagher additionally retiring. Looking at those pit stints. If a driver last went into pit road in the first 20 laps, it means they've been waiting since the caution. And so far, it looks like Newbigging and Von Drugman, the only exceptions, only for Vincent Guecci to add his name. Guecci is now on pit road right now. The 88 car, 4 tires and fuel, and it looks like another dropping right in. Just behind is now Braxton Whitaker. Whitaker coming in from 14th that time by. What could be the final pit stop of the night, just past our halfway point for the B-Man design Chevrolet Camaro. And so another driver drops through. Keep a watch out for who goes to pit road and when. Now, interestingly enough, of course, when you look at the tire numbers, they also seem to be, relatively speaking, more impactful than previous at this venue. Last time by, it was a 25.18 for Henry Kaloff, and qualifying time was a 23.511 for Daniel Mosteller. Kaloff was only 4/10 back of that number, and it means that he's had a spread of about 1.2 seconds from his best lap to his most recent. Looking at that tire degradation playing a role, and a significant one so far. Whether or not that's going to involve, or rather cause a driver to go to pit road, I don't think that's really going to be the case so far anyway. It's been all about the fuel numbers, since we do have a fuel cap, but pace is different from beginning to end, and substantially different at that. It's a short track, so any extra second you add on to the lap means a lot more. A second lost at Daytona is not the same as a second lost at Iowa. This track is just about a quarter the size of Daytona, and it comes in at just over that, in fact. Either way, much smaller track. Every individual moment on a racetrack matters more because there's less time to recover overall. Carlos Truther coming in. Now we'll see if the undercut ends up working or if the overcut works, in that the drivers who are going in right now are undercutting relative to the field because they're going in before half the field has gone through. The overcut would be drivers who are coming in after the fact, which is the guys who come in late. So, from this middle point, give or take, to the very end, those could be the guys who are up at the head of the field who know they have very little to lose, as River Page now decides to go in before any of his competitors up and ahead. Compared to those other leaders, he definitely undercuts them big time. 90 laps in out of 150. Rolling to the inner groove, Page. He's the first of those big guys up and ahead to make the call. 90 laps in out of 150. We're past our halfway point, looking at 60 laps remaining on the day. Let's take a ride on board now with Daniel Mosteller and see what's going on inside the cockpit and take a look at what the secret is behind his success. Daniel Mosteller, as delicate as he comes on the throttle that time by, finally makes the move in. He'll take it to pit road a little bit later than competitor Page, River opting to do so, of course, just 2 laps prior. For the number 87 team, it's lap 92, the magic number for pit road. Page, lap number 90. Frank Horley takes the race lead. He's now got it, and he's the only driver left on the first pit stop wing, shall we say. It goes down to this. The cautions were the first pit stop cycle overall, but he went in through caution number 1, not caution number 2. So he has 8 lap older rubber than those who are still out. Horley comes in at lap 93 after a 79 lap stint. It's Henry Kaloff now to the point with 57 laps to go. Kaloff and KDR teammate Aaron Schugel are first and second. We'll see now whether or not these teammates have anything left in their back pocket. Again, to this point, the driver of the number 63 Kaloff, not yet an IORA Cup Series winner. Same goes for Aaron Schugel. Schugel in the number 91. Well, he's gotten close. Perhaps the closest he ever was the battle directly against Alexander Balderas in Auto Club several seasons ago. He found himself ahead of Balderas before a pit stop blunder, and we told this story last week from Balderas' perspective. While Alexander will no longer be able to fight for a championship, he has 2 career wins and still 1 more chance for another. Daniel Mosteller just reported his tire set data after the last run. Interestingly, left sides were coming in at 49%, and the right sides at 75%. It looks like overall the left sides were really clamping down on these guys, so it means that those left side tires would be more important in case of a 2-tire wildcard strategy. The right side coming in firm enough at 75%. I don't think that's acceptable or really anything great. Nothing to ride home about, that's for sure. But if you're a driver who's desperate and needs to save stuff, well, the left sides are what you got to look at because you're really burning them down as the race goes on. Take a look back, and it'll be Chase Schaefer coming through. Chase in the number 99 car is looking right after Demos here, and while River Page is ahead of both of them, that could change. Again, River has old tire, but he's trying to replicate the strategy call he made just last week and look for his 2nd consecutive win. Currently, the gap between these two is 3 seconds. River is ahead, Daniel Mosteller trailing, and it's an additional 2nd back to Chase Schaefer if you're looking from the 24 to the 99. Schaefer to the start-finish line again. Now we'll see whether or not he's going to be able to make it up. The difference in tire between the 87 and 99 team is 1 lap. Just 1. That isn't usually enough to make a substantial difference, and these two drivers, relatively speaking, have been stride for stride pace-wise all night long. At that time by, Chase Schaefer was 12 one-thousandths of a second quicker. This time through, he was about 21 thousandths of a second quicker. Yes, he is faster, but he's not much faster. And that really doesn't help out. If you have a slight advantage, of course, by all means, it's a good thing. But for Chase right now, I don't think what he has will be nearly enough to gain effectively or efficiently. He might be able to put a little bit more back together as only 1 holdout remains in Henry Kaloff, but it won't be enough, and it's going to be all eyes on Daniel Mosteller chasing after Henry Kaloff here, 18th up to 1st. Kaloff gets it there, and the FTN Broadcasting 63, a little bit of a different look. He's got some new sponsors on it as well. You can see in the backside of that car, and it looks like Kaloff bringing it in. 4 tires and fuel. River Page taking the race lead for the first time tonight, and he's doing it under his own control fully. Gone from the shackles of Mosteller, it's River leading with less than 50 laps to go. If you've enjoyed tonight's coverage so far, make sure to check out iRacing.com. The summer stretch is going on at FTN Broadcasting, and it means we'll be bringing a little bit different coverage, of course, over the next coming weeks. All-star races, exhibition events, and a few more special races we don't often get the privilege of covering as we go to the midway point of the 2025 racing year. If you'd like to join the fun as a driver, by all means, you're invited to the party. Visit iRacing.com and learn how you can start your sim racing career today. Officially licensed with NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, the World of Outlaws, and the World Endurance Championship, and alongside many other motorsport disciplines. Thank you to iRacing for making it happen tonight and helping out and bringing our coverage to you. You're watching FTN Broadcasting and coverage of the International Online Racing Association in its penultimate race. We'll be right back after this. Stay tuned after a message from iRacing.com.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
With 44 laps remaining, Daniel Mosteller maintains. However, he's maintaining second place. He's cut a second back on River Page, and it looks like the gap is within 2.5 seconds and might fall within 2 flat as Braxton Whitaker, the lapper, is now just ahead of River here. River, a little bit quicker down the back straight. Whitaker decides to move low. That's going to send River up to that higher, less slicked up portion of the circuit. Not where any driver wants to be. Whitaker got out of the way, but I don't think it's going to help out the Page team. Instead, it'll work in the favor of Daniel Mosteller. At the line, the gap was practically identical. And Chase Schaefer is now within 6/10 of Daniel Mosteller. Frank Horley falling back to 6th as Aiden Walker, for the first time tonight, gets inside the top 5. Looks like now Carlos Truther getting up to the 22 car. Aiden needs this top 5 more than anything else. Daniel Mosteller still has a much higher likelihood of coming away with the win relative to the 93 team. Of course, Walker still could win, but by all accounts, he's going to have to work a lot harder to get there relative to his competitor in the 87. 41 laps to go now for Daniel Mosteller. The gap is under 2 seconds firmly. There's Whitaker again, but this time they'll be side by side. Demos does not tuck in on the lapper. Carlos Truther trying to get up to Frank Horley here, hasn't worked out. Walker's cut his own gap. He's got his own groove. The only driver around him is the lapper in Wayne Kennedy. Kennedy right now, 23rd to 18th, is 2 laps down, and he's the final driver still racing. Looks like, tentatively speaking, he finds himself 5 spots up on where he qualified. 39 laps to go. Will Shack, 17th to 16th, is only 1 spot up on where he qualified. There's Aiden Walker. Carlos Truther just retired for the night, and it looks like he decided to do so on his own accord. Aiden Smith, by virtue of that, moves up to 12th place. Henry Kaloff, now right at it with his teammate, just got ahead of Aaron Schugel. So Henry goes 10th, Schugel goes 11th. Still an outside chance the teammates pull away for double top 10s, but they'd have to make it up to Rowe or Contreras or Douglas Newbigging up and ahead. 1.8 seconds the gap between Mosteller and Page. And what a night it would be for River to pull ahead with one more victory. Even though still he would have to be effectively perfect to win the championship from this point onward, he has been narrowing the gap on your top two drivers and executing in the clutch, something that of course we know he can do, but it really hasn't been his season to this point. We first saw Daniel Mosteller spring out as always, then Aiden Walker pulling it all together again, only to see River Page, a former champion, bring it back one more time. The Season 5 title winner looks like he's back in his best form and might be able to go for 2 consecutive wins. Page has not been able to do that in several seasons. And River now working that higher groove here, saving some rubber, shade on the circuit, a little less slick overall. Gap is 1.7 seconds as they cross the line. With 35 laps to go, Daniel Mosteller's made up nearly a half of the deficit in about a quarter of the time. When you look at the numbers that way, it works out pretty well for Demos. .34 to go. Now, of course, you got to maintain that pace, which is another thing. A driver can be red hot and get things going to start, but if you're not able to go all the way in a 50-lap run, then you're very likely going to come up short, and come up short by a wide margin. Just depends, of course, on how far you're able to push it. James Thurston coming up on the lapper of Guecci. James right now is in 4th, while his teammate leads the way. Aiden Walker in the 93 car, 5th place, and now 7 seconds back on your leader in Page. The only hope that he has now is, of course, for Page to beat Mosteller, and that he won't be caught up to by anyone else. It's highly unlikely there's going to be anyone who's quick enough to get back up to Walker. He's got himself the room to maintain his position, and it just becomes about the battle ahead between two drivers he has absolutely no control over. Gap is now 1.5 seconds as Daniel Mosteller pulls in more. More than half the work has been done. Demos just needs to finish it off. 31 laps to go this time by. Chase Schaefer is 2.2 seconds back, 4th to 3rd, and it looks like he's been able to maintain within a second of Daniel Mosteller, but again, he hasn't quite been able to gain anything more. He's been able to keep pace, hasn't been much quicker, so Chase might be able to settle again for a solid top 3. His main competitors in the championship are Thurston and Page, and it looks like it's really going to be Chase Schaefer and River Page going at it again. .29 laps to go. Moments away from what could be another top 3 run for Schaefer. It's been a remarkable career for perhaps one of our best ever drivers to never win a title. To this point, the driver of the number 99, Chase Schaefer, he has become a successful driver not only in terms of intermediates, perhaps his specialty, but also overall. He's been with us now since Season 2 on a consistent basis. And additionally, he's also got himself the merit of being a driver who we've seen in our side series, making regular appearances in special events and making himself involved from beginning to end of IORA. And the most important part when it comes to that community basis is not just the victories and championships, but the involvement he's had with the team in IORA. And tentatively speaking, contact further behind. James Thurston gets involved with the lapper of Vincent Guecci. Yellow flag is out. Now, I can't imagine why that happened, but push just came to shove. Watch this. Contact. They came up the track, met each other there, and Guecci was taken right out. Will Shack ends up, of course, falling out. He retires, but it was a big hit for the driver of that number 88. Watch this again. Guecci was quicker, mind you, and they just met each other in the middle. Contact, third caution of the day, just like that. And Thurston saves himself there. Guecci ends up destroyed. I think that's his night. River Page to the inside. And so now our final pit stop cycle of the day comes to make it a sprint to the checkered flag. Four tires and fuel looks to be the recipe for success tonight. Looking at Henry Kaloff getting out, as does Thurston, but Page beats out Mosteller, but at the cones, the 87 gets the run. Daniel Mosteller ahead of River Page with 25 laps to go, making critical use of those final 100 feet. Take a look at that. Daniel Mosteller, River Page, back in the order they ran those many laps ago. River had a second and a half in the advantage. Demos was clawing him in, but now the most dominant driver of the day, once again, is in full control. Daniel Mosteller maintains the advantage he's had all race long. Coming to 1 lap to green. Demos up top. Henry Kaloff now takes it low, as does Douglas Newbigging. But a lot of faith for River Page and Demos here, as he opts to stay behind his main race rival. And furthermore, championship leader Aiden Walker is third on the top groove. "22 laps to go when we head back to work from Iowa. After more than 100 laps of racing, to seal the deal, it's Mosteller and Page against the field. Green flags out. Daniel Mosteller, 2 car lengths on the 24, a car length on the 63, back in business, and Demos gets the restart of his career. Contact, Aiden Smith. One on pit road is Thurston, but it'll be the 09 who ends up beating and banging. He'll be able to straighten it out as they go 3 wide into turns 1 and 2. Frank Horley, 6th place, just outside the top 5 again. All the while it's Walker and Newbigging for 4th. But there's no match now for Daniel Mosteller, while Henry Kaloff maintains 2nd place. 18th to 2nd. Will it stay that way? We'll find out now as River Page looks low. River coming on strong to Kaloff here, but he can't quite get around. 20 laps remaining. Frank Horley down to the inside again. Can't get a spot. Everyone runs exactly as you see them. Demos, 19 laps to go. Aiden Walker in the 93 following as Douglas Newbigin holds 4th and 5th. Watch what happens now for Chase Schaefer. He's there in 7th place. He was up inside the podium, but he's going to have to dig deep to get up even to the top 5 now, since they're all stacked up so different. Sean Rowe heading down to the bottom. Aaron Schugel, a little bit squirrely there. 1 spot gain for the 29. Rowe is going to try to make up some final spots and positions in the championship lineup. It all comes down to whether or not he can make the best of these last 2 races. And of course, capitalizing in this one is the only shot he's got. 9th in the championship standings right now for Rowe. He's going directly against Aladam Contreras and Henry Kaloff. It looks like tonight Rowe is going to have the better of Contreras, most likely anyway. And that's going to bump him up in the standings, but that's the only thing he can guarantee now. Walker getting ahead of Douglas Newbigin. Henry Kaloff in the 63 still maintaining that podium spot for Walker. What a recovery race it would be to get back up to 3rd after spending a majority of the night hardly inside the top 10. With 15 laps to go, Daniel Mosteller has him made. Demos is 7/10 of a second out, with Kaloff now in 3rd, Aiden Walker 4th, Douglas Newbigin 5th, Frank Horley 6th, and Chase Schaefer in 7th here. Looks like they're still scattering. Douglas Newbigin up to the top side on the Horley car for 5th place. Newbigin very close now to the top 5. Although we spend a majority of the night outside the top 10, he's a driver who's really been on that resurgence. Gets in the wall though briefly. Contact from Schaefer. Newbigin saves it, but he'll be shot up the circuit and loses multiple spots once again. Douglas Newbigin down to 8th place by virtue of that contact. And really getting roughhoused across the track there. Big contact, and the yellow flag is out. Take a look at this. Caution flies. And it's going to be Aaron Schugel, the cause of it. For our 4th caution of the day, Aiden Smith gets into Schugel, sends him up the track, and the yellow flag flies. 4th yellow flag of the day with 12 laps remaining. Pit stop cycles have effectively come to pass, so in the meanwhile, we'll bring you some presentations from our sponsors and associates who make it possible live on FTN. Thank you for tuning in to FTN Broadcasting tonight. It's been a wonderful run of racing with 12 laps to go. Brought to you by Whiplash SimCams. We're going to our non-stop coverage, and you won't miss a thing. We'll return right before we go green. With a dozen to do it, Daniel Mosteller takes the field into pit road. 1 final race in. This is critical. Watch this as they all come through to pit exit. Pit road filling up. Tires are everything. And here's Mosteller with Page. "11 laps to go. Aiden Walker gets the ball rolling ahead of everyone else. The 93 car. Aiden Walker wins off the pit road. Unbelievable. With 10 laps to go, and less than that when we restart, it'll be Walker in control of your final restart. That might be the move for the championship. We'll return before we go green. Stay tuned live on FTN. We'll be back after this.
Boundless makes its presence felt. It will not be ignored. We're helping turn ideas into reality with a wealth of building products that take every architectural style to the next level. This is what it's like to imagine, build, and transform anything we want into exactly what we seek. This is what it means to be boundless.
9 laps remaining, and it'll be 8 when we go green again. Aiden Walker with the critical play of the night, getting himself up to the top of the pylon, and doing so, of course, on the alternate strategy. He came out so much faster because he did not take 4 tires and fuel. He instead goes for 2. Those left sides are going to be reset. He has to hang on now for the final 8 laps. It's easier said than done. Outside, Andres Varas gets the start, though, and here comes the 84. Never a winner beforehand, now going head-to-head with Walker for one final shot of the checkers. Wiggling, Aiden Smith further behind. Walker now blocking big. Henry Kaloff, second place on the inside. If there's ever been a chance for Kaloff to win, he better not give it away sliding. River Page goes around. Caution's out. Take a look back at this restart. Hectic as ever, Walker is running the clock down. You see there, Varas, Schaefer into Page, and they spin around. Yellow flag is out, 7 laps to go. For River, that's effectively the end of his chances to go to victory lane tonight. Too little time on the table here, and I think we're going to have less than 4 laps when we go green again. Single file, multiple down to pit road further behind. You'll see Wayne Kennedy opting to go in. 38 car. And it looks like River Page, now the final driver, still out here. Doug Newbigging stays on. Andres Varas drops in with damage. Walker is going to have at most 3 laps to go to seal the deal. Frank Horley is in second, looking for his career first victory. Sean Rowe, Aladam Contreras, Henry Kaloff also consisting of the top 5, while Daniel Mosteller gets shafted to 6th. Frank Horley lines up to the inside groove here as everyone gets put together. This will not count as one of our restart attempts. We still have 3 in our back pocket as we now see the official signal, 2 laps to green. It will be a 3-lap shootout, which is not a green-white checkered. Any other caution from this point onward means that we will go to overtime territory, in which it is only 2 laps allotted for each attempt. However, this is a 3-lap green flag run. If the white flag flies under any circumstances, the race is official, and the final lap will be that when the white flag waves, whether it is tonight, lap 150, or any subsequent lap after an overtime finish. A caution would automatically extend this race to have an overtime attempt. It would be the first of 3 in our case right now. We would extend the race up to 3 more times, and if we have a 4th caution from this point onward, the race will conclude at the end of the 2-lap cycle of our 3rd overtime. Effectively, checkers or wreckers, you get 3 chances to come home clean. If you waste them all, it's over. Side by side again. Frank Horley to the inside. Aiden Walker up top. Now it looks like it's going to be a 2-lap shootout with that extra pit lap added. This is still not an overtime attempt. but it's going to be a mad dash, a natural green-white checkered as we call it. Aiden Walker just has to complete over 1.5 miles to come away with a critical championship victory. A win tonight could all but secure the title. Daniel Mosteller knows this. He's got younger rubber than the 93, but he has to find a way up the field in record time. Here we go. 2 more laps. Unless we see an overtime, this is it. Green flags out. What a jump from Aiden Walker. He's already underway, and Demos is already 4 wide. Aiden has what he needs, but they're banging behind him. Contact in the wall. Whitaker stays straight. Daniel Mosteller 3 wide, desperately trying to make it through. River Page and Schugel run up the circuit. Demos destroyed! Schugel, Schaefer, Page, all of which. And the white flag waved. 1 lap to go. We're still racing. Aiden Walker gets away. Frank Horley in second. Sean Rowe right to his underside. But it's no use. Aiden Walker, with the best 10 laps of his career, wins from Iowa. The dagger in the Season 7 championship comes tonight. Aiden Walker, he's only got 1 more race to run, but a win like that all but secures the championship. Unbelievable. It's his 4th of the season and the most important, perhaps, of his sim racing career. For 140 laps on the day, Walker was behind Daniel Mosteller. He ends up ahead, a difference of 15 places. Aiden Walker is a different animal this season, and he just proved it when the lights were brightest. Wow. Rolling the tape back on that final run will show you the extent to which that was unbelievable. And of course you can see here, Aiden Walker with Sean Rowe just after the checkered flag falls. But take a look again at this full restart here, because this is the championship's defining moments. Demos was inside of the top 5, and Walker, of course, had the lead. But what happens from here is everything. Walker got the perfect restart. There was really nothing that could be done about that. For Demos, it ended up being all about trying to recover, get as many positions as he could, and then the contact strikes. Demos goes down into Thurston, ricochets up the track. Schaefer gets pulverized, mind you. Game over. That is the difference maker for Season 7. And Aiden Walker, while not yet crowned a champion, has almost an insurmountable margin for anyone to climb up. He led 8 laps today. He led 8 laps and wins over Frank Horley, a first-time podium sitter, and Sean Rowe then in third. James Thurston finishes 4th on the night with Aladam Contreras 5th, Aiden Smith in 6th, and Andres Vara 7th, with Braxton Whitaker 8th, River Page in 9th, and Douglas Newbigging concluding the top 10. 11th place is then from there going to be Henry Kaloff with Aaron Schugel 12th, Shea Schaefer 13th, Will Shack 14th, and Wayne Kennedy 15th. Daniel Mosteller starts second, leads 97 laps, and finishes 16th place. Vincent Guecci comes away 17th with Carlos Schruter 18th, Von Drugman 19th, and Jason Gallagher 20th. Finish it off, you'll have 21st Jaden Hall, 22nd Devins Baker, 23rd Lars Kinnewith, 24th Corbin Collins, and Tyler Shaw 25th and last. Unbelievable. We got to talk to the winning man first and foremost, because this was the race of his career, unequivocally. Of course, Walker has already put together multiple great performances, and for a 4th win, of course, it would be critical to get it tonight. And in the way you did, Aiden, you only led 8 laps, you were only up in the top conversation for 15 of them, and those final restarts went exactly the way you needed. That is the defining moment of Season 7, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm just going to be totally honest with this entire broadcast. I did not deserve that win. Besides like the strategy stuff, I mean, I already knew once we had that late caution with Thurston and Vinny that it was just going to end up turning into this kind of stuff where we have a wreck right before like we get to 10 to go, and then they just keep on wrecking. That's just how most of these late race restarts usually go and things. It's just everyone getting very aggressive and things. And you have people on different tire strategies, like you saw in the first restart, the last 2. Then the second restart, I just looked at it, looked like just going for the same spot at the same time, which is what I was honestly expecting before this race. But yeah, overall, it was an okay race. Just had some mistakes early on that put me into the back, and yeah, it just wasn't really my greatest performance. Just the only reason I won was just because from that 2 tire little strat. So I don't know how big our points lead is now, but it's probably gonna be pretty large with what happened with Demos and things. So we'll move on to next week. Hopefully keep some kind of momentum up and try not getting involved in a wreck. And we so far kept the streak of 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. I don't even know how many times I've done that, but overall, it was an okay race. Just kind of got lucky with the strategy and how it all played out at the end there. So, gotta thank my sponsors: Slightly's Custom Diecast, Coggle Motor Company, Blue Line Tennessee, Hyperco Coils. I'll wait till shout outs. Yeah.
Now, first and foremost, Aiden, we'd like to mention you didn't have the best of starts. You said it yourself. You found yourself in 9th place for the opening portion of this race. And for a long while there, you were in the back half of the top 10. Now, it seems like we had that long green flag run that certainly made it harder to pass around, but was there anything you learned through that run that helped you out when you got back to business?
Yeah, I kind of learned that once we got middle of the run, kind of like how it was last week. At least last week you had a little bit more of an opportunity, but this week you could not really make a easy pass unless you had a major, and I mean it, major tire difference over someone. So really it was just mainly about kind of trying to think about that, because that's what mainly made me think of doing the 2 tire strap, because I knew Kaloff was right in front of me entering the pits. During the long run, I noticed he was a little bit slower than me. No, not even finished, of course, but he was just a little slower on pace than me, and just kind of went with the 2 tire call. He took 2 tires, I'm pretty sure, also, but I think just pit stall and all that helped me a lot with that. And then we just got to those final restarts. All I needed to do was just time to start with Andres and stay up with everyone. And then once I had to lead when we had that first caution after that first restart, I don't even know how many restarts we've had this race, but after that restart, just really trying to make sure I get a good jump on everyone, make sure I don't get any rear end damage, which happened with Demos, Chase, and River. that really hurt River at the end there with having that rear end damage, which really makes the car super loose because I've had it before and things. So yeah, I I'm slightly happy with this race. I mean, it makes me relax, but at the same time, I'm just not happy with how this race ended. I feel like I shouldn't have been in this position.
Certainly a lot different than what any of us expected in those opening 140 plus laps. And it now leads us to our final ever race in the IORA Cup Series, and it looks like you've got yourself a firm upper hand in putting away your first championship winning season and your final ever opportunity here, Aiden. One more to go, not only on the season, but in your IORA career. And what does it mean to you now with this position you're in, of course, looking to close out the job?
Like I said, it's kind of just relaxing about this position now because throughout the playoffs, I was kind of just worried about like if something bad happens to me during this, the chances are I'm completely done for the rest of this. So that was just pretty much my main worry and just trying to stay clean most of this season. And yeah, this race was a little bit sloppy. I'm gonna be totally honest. It just felt like a race like Michigan and the two other races I had really bad runs. But yeah, it's like I said, it's really relaxing to have this position now. So we'll move on to next week. Keep this momentum up and hopefully bring ourselves back to championship. Which, with the points gap, I think as long as I just stay out of trouble, we should be pretty good. So, of course, gotta shout out the broadcast. Subscribe to FTN Broadcasting. Great broadcast channel. Well, yes, we are having the end of IORA coming up this season. We will have some other races coming up in for a little send off for IORA. And don't forget SRL on Sunday at I think 8:30 p.m. Right?
8:30, yes.
And I guess I'll let you list off the rest of the leagues real quick.
Mondays, Tuesdays, Integrity Racing League, of course, the Ignite Series and the Octane Series, and Thursdays for the summer. We'll see whether or not we can bring that farewell tour to life. But of course, Aiden, now one more points-paying race to go. You got the upper head in the championship and a critical win for IORA to back up the hype. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
In only his second start, and with only 2 races to go, Frank Horley does what very few drivers have this season and make it firmly onto the podium with a top 5 qualifying position. Great run for the Pennzoil Ford Mustang today, 3/10 back. Solid all day long for a top 10 run, and the restarts work out just right for you, Frank, to get up to this second place.
Yeah, wish I could have done that last restart better. The 63 was laying on my bumper, and I think that in part caused me to miss my first shift and to just set up Walker to just clear me right away. I thought I timed it well. The 63 was just on my bumper, and like it kind of threw me off and messed up my shift up. But it is what it is. I ran pretty well all race. I think I was like 5th through 7th for most of it. And then that two tire call at the end for track position, because I don't race this league much. I got nothing to lose, and it ended up working out because I went from like finishing like 6th to 2nd.
And you've made only a few starts this season. Matter of fact, it's been one of 2 in the last few races in this final stretch of the season here, but so quickly you've adapted to run strong, and the Iowa Speedway looking a lot different from what we've seen as of late. Of course, I figure you're no stranger to short tracks on iRacing, but we saw a little bit more challenging to get the multi-groove action going today, and tires were all important. So how did you navigate throughout this race trying to figure passes out with that in mind?
Yeah, tire saving was hard, so it was kind of once you got like 20 laps into a run, it seemed like everybody moved up to that middle groove. And it's very hard to pass somebody on the bottom when someone's just running the middle, unless there's a significant tire difference. So once everyone started right in the middle, it was like, just sit back and maybe wait for mistakes. But I thought I managed my race pretty well with tires. I did wear them out more than I would have liked to on the first run. I lost a lot of time in the long run to like Demos, River, and Chase Schaefer and all them. But yeah, it ended up being a sprint at the end, tire saving was thrown out the window, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would have passed Walker if I timed out the restart better. I would have been on the bottom. I know he's in the championship hunt, so I don't want to wreck him or don't want to screw him over. So I probably would have raced him with a lot of respect, but in the end, it was a lot different compared to old Iowa. The new pavement, the transition from the new pavement to the old pavement was really sketchy. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed driving it. It's a fun track, and yeah.
Even with a little bit of that difficulty, we saw some drivers bobbling out of the corner exits. It seems he maintained a pretty wheel and came away for second. One last chance, and as quickly as you've made your name in the IORA Cup Series, Frank, we've only got one last go-around, and it's going to be next week in Las Vegas. Quickly, you've gotten yourself that first podium. Is your end goal now to take it one step higher and end on top?
Yeah, I would love to win. I think Vegas is one of my better tracks. I wish I could have raced more this season. I was just away at college for most of the year. And now that I'm back for the summer, I'm able to race a lot more. So, Chicago, I was leading for a while, and then I sped on pit road. That was unfortunate. That ended my chances pretty quickly. But yeah, Vegas is one of my better tracks, and the Xfinity car is my favorite car. So, that combo, I think I'm gonna have a good shot. So, if I can race next week, hopefully I can put in victory lane to cap off IORA's lifetime.
One last chance to go to victory lane, but so quickly the 22 team has made it back up to the podium circle. Any final comments you'd like to leave us with, Frank? Of course, the floor is yours.
Yeah, congrats to Walker. Sucks for guys like Demos and River that they probably would have finished 1-2. It wasn't for a wreck by a guy that was a lap down. And both of them were caught up in wrecks at the end, I believe. So it sucks for them, but I'm glad I was able to capitalize and get second. Hopefully I can finish one place higher next week.
Frank Horley, second place with a career best finish in the IORA Cup Series, coming up 0.3 short from the Iowa Speedway. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
With Horley on the move, one more to speak to, our Daytona winner in Sean Rowe. Now, currently it looks like he's unavailable for comment, so we're going to see if we can officially confirm him. Tentatively speaking, Sean away from the desk. 4.5 tenths back, Sean Rowe, 6th up to 3rd. It was a quiet night for him for the most part, and he, much like Horley, much like Hayden Walker, benefiting from the restarts here. So we're giving it a little bit of time now. Sean Rowe, 3rd place in the 29 car to come away with that final podium position. James Thurston, Aladam Contreras rounding out the top 5. We're going to wait a little bit while longer. If we get Sean Rowe, we'll bring him right back. If not, we'll come to the conclusion of tonight's coverage and give a little bit more information about what's going on next week. We'll be right back after this.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Unfortunately, it appears that Sean Rowe is unavailable for comment. Your 3rd place finisher coming through 4.5 tenths back. He'll come right behind Frank Horley, 3 tenths behind your race winner in his career best finish, and Aiden Walker in a critical victory collects his 4th of the season and leads the championship firmly heading into the IORA Cup Series final race, which is next week at Las Vegas. Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We will hope to bring the broadcast on a little bit earlier, and we can run through some of the stories and the great moments that made this league what it was. we will leave it brief for the time being anyhow, but this is the final championship run for the IORA Cup Series. They will race over the summer for 8 more events, and again, terminate the contracts of all drivers and leave it be indefinitely onward. With that said, thank you all for tuning in tonight. It's going to be a thriller in Las Vegas next week. Our next broadcast is Sunday night with the Schumacher Racing League, and we'd hope to see you there. Until then, you've been watching coverage from the virtual Iowa Speedway for race number 14 of the IORA Cup Series Championship. It is, of course, Season 7, and the title race is due to come to a close in just 1 more race's time. 150 laps in Sin City will set us off, but until then, I've been your host, David Kreutz, commentating and producing. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Your support is always sincerely appreciated. We hope you have a fantastic night. Congratulations to Aiden Walker for collecting victory, and we can't wait to bring you back next week for our series finale from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Boundless makes its presence felt. It will not be ignored. We're helping turn ideas into reality with a wealth of building products that take every architectural style to the next level. This is what it's like to imagine, build, and transform anything we want into exactly what we seek. This is what it means to be boundless.
This message is brought to you by the rebrand of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This publication may not be reposted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. NASCAR Camping World Ford F-150. NASCAR Xfinity Ford Mustang. NASCAR Cup Series Next-Gen Ford Mustang. Arca Menards. This has been the publication of the redesign and rebranding of Throttle Graphics and Designs. This message may not be reposted, republicated, or rebroadcasted without the authorized written consent of Throttle Graphics and Designs. Thank you, and thanks for your time.